most commonly attribute the intense burning felt during exhaustive bouts of exercise to the accumulation of lactate in the blood, which is produced by the higher level of exercise intensity. When you demand energy faster than your aerobic energy system can produce it, your glycolytic energy system picks up the slack. Your lactate threshold essentially defines the upper limit of your sustainable efforts in training and competition. Once you cross over and rely more heavily on your glycolytic system for energy, you're exercising on borrowed time. End quote. There's a cognitive tax for that, which brings us to compression. Speaker cones slamming against the metal plate of an enclosure, a spike through the gate and clamp functions of a limiter. Add in a little dose of an aural exciter, meaning bump up that signal curve at 40 hertz, 200, 23,000 hertz respectively. Compression ratio, compressibility, bandwidth compression, internal combustion, reduction, volume, pressure change, total bandwidth. Step into the arena. Clicking fingernails against bass strings, or as they call it in audio engineering, scooped mids. Step into the rage cage. Compressed riffs in an air-cooled hangar. A 24-hour blade show. Secret lives of police. 2 police in a cafe. You call yourself a real police. Police yourself. I'll have your badge and your gun, Lieutenant. I pulled you over for having a vegan bumper sticker, lol. I was wondering, where do you get your protein from? In Machinic Desire, Nick Land writes, begin quote, addiction comes out of the future, and there's a replicator interlock with money operating quite differently to reproductive investment, but guiding it even more inexorably towards capitalization. For the replicants, money is not a matter of possession, but of liquidity, deterritorialization, and all the monetary processes of birth are open to their excitement, irrespective of ownership. Money communicates with the primary process because of what it can melt, not what it can obtain. Machinic desire can seem a little inhuman as it rips up political culture, deletes traditions, dissolves subjectivities, and hacks through security apparatuses, tracking the soulless tropism to zero control. End quote. Must, capital M, possess, capital T, the endurance, capital E, and the mental, capital M, and the physical, capital P, fortitude, capital F, to actually be successful, capital S, in this industry, capital I. Your coworkers walk into the elevator on Monday a.m., accelerated in G-shock, vertically up the spire like a single glass tier down the dashboard of a hydroplane. Their essences tightly strapped into their compression fit carapaces, and like a perfectly lubricated pendulum, oscillate ad infinitum between crisis control and ultraglide. What did you do this weekend? Oh, nothing, went rock climbing. Went into the office for a couple hours on Saturday. Took the kids to see Minions on Sunday. Went into the office for 3 hours on Sunday. How was your weekend? In the words of Lao Sun Tzu, the open steppe, a fleet horse, falcons at your wrists, and the wind in your hair. Faces pressed into the ash. In an article published in Runner's World in 2013, 5 years after the collapse of 2008, Michelle Hamilton states why ING, a multinational investment and financial services bank, pulled out of sponsorship of the New York Marathon. Begin quote, with tens of millions of eyeballs on those distinctive bright orange banners, it seems like ING could have extended the sponsorship by one more at least, if only to get the name out there. Neither the company nor the marathon organizers would say how much they pumped down for the race, but Hartford is believed to be in the low hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. Miami is in the mid six-figure range, and New York would be well over $1 million. If you look at very high net worth people, a very small fraction run marathons, he said. Instead, ING Voya will move toward backing financial literacy projects. We need to look at this from a strategic point of view, he said. Financial literacy is critical, but it doesn't bring the same pizzazz as running. The company wants customers with high net worth, and ING has signaled that it doesn't want to attract a lot of older customers unless they're profitable, Kumar said. End quote. Headbutt, the most personal, devastating, completely unpredictable, irrationally a strategic blow. Stir, an often malformed growth of bone tissue grown out of the skulls of goats, cattle, and sheep. Disbudding, an operation in which the horns are removed due to fiscal prudence and safety of cohabitating livestock. In Orson and Eaton's 1944 study, the relation between polled and hermaphroditic characters in dairy goats, a gene was located as a link between hermaphrodism and the process of disbudding in goats. Headbutt, the natural behavioral tendency of goats. Snare cracks and neck snaps. Violence, incalculably vast, annihilating sleepily, unceasingly clinical violence. Zooming effortlessly into the locus of real estate at the perimeter of an infinitely expanding universe. Expanding until the edges crumble and the vision border as it tastes of chrome, envelops the entirety of the tongue, and breathing oscillates between contractions and an impossibility of cascading time signatures. Autophagy. Autophagy, or autophageticosis, derived from Greek, origins of which are derived from the Greek auto or self, and phaging, to eat, is a naturally occurring destructive agency by which, through the strategic process, audits and expels malfunctioning or useless cellular dead weight, otherwise known as programmed cell death, PCD, programmed cell death, PCD, PCP tornado, built to grind. Aminos, 8 grams of BCAAs, 2-to-1 ratio, 4 grams of leucine, 2.5 grams of betaine, 0 grams of pure sugar, pure war, total fury. Repeat until form begins to deteriorate. Collapsing new buildings, room full of dicks with nowhere to sit down. Repeating until form begins to deteriorate. In Speed in Politics, French philosopher Powrplnt coined in 1977 the term dromology, from the Greek word dromos, or race horse, as a governmental utility of harnessing, mobilizing, incarcerating, and accelerating things and people. He further illuminates the origins of urban planning built upon infrastructures of intentionally designed to mediate defense and conflict as the street is the new coastline and the dwelling a seaport from which one can measure the magnitude of the social flow, predict its overflowings. The doors to the city are its toll booths, and its customs posts are dams, filtering the fluidity of the masses, the penetrating power of the migrating hordes. The old, swampy, unhealthy beaches that surround the fortified city, the Congo plains of the American slave, the old fortifications, the outskirts, the shantytowns, favelas, but also the poorhouse barracks, the prisons, solve a problem less of enclosure or exclusion than of traffic. All of them are uncertain places because they are situated between 2 speeds of transit, acting as brakes against the acceleration of penetration. And further, the countryside, the earth is henceforth given over, consecrated to war by cosmopolitan masses of workers, an army of laborers speaking every language, the babble of logistics. End quote. Priceless, monetization, determination, mantra, eat, pray, fuck, deva achieved, act the god, eat the world, eat, pray, fuck, muscular dystrophy as a result of excessive cardio, overtraining, 5 foods that kill testosterone. Give them all to me. The earth, the metropolitan hub, universe operates entirely on torque as a non-renewable source of energy. Your success or failure depends on your relationship to it. Either put up or shut up, get in where you fit in, run up, get done up. Elliot Rodgers' 141-page manifesto ends with the passage, begin quote, "Humanity struck at me first by condemning me to experience so much suffering. I didn't ask for this, I didn't want this, I didn't start this. War, I wasn't the one who struck first, but I will finish it by striking back. I will punish everyone and it will be beautiful. Finally, at long last, I can show the world my true worth." End quote. Decals, strategically adhered decals, laced along the crests of windshields resplendently. Lit by perfect sunbeams dripping sex and opulence, searing opals burning through your corneas, making you pure, making you weep, weep with power. Spoilers slicing swaths of exuberance directly through the sides of mountains. Crouched upon the mountain, surveying the peons, minions, plebs, simps. They will never know this. They will never love me. No one will ever love me like I love me. Susan Pinker, in The Sexual Paradox of Spouses, begin quote, "For me, the question of whether males really fit our expectation of the standard neutral gender, what I'll call the vanilla gender, started in my pediatric clinic waiting room. Over 20 years of clinical practice and teaching as a child psychologist, I had seen mostly males, boys and men with learning problems, attention problems, aggressive or antisocial boys, those with autistic features, those who couldn't sleep well or make friends, or couldn't sit still, dominated my practice. Research confirmed the gender breakdown of my waiting room. Learning problems, attention deficit disorder, autism spectrum disorders are 4 to 10 times more likely in boys, anxiety and depression twice as common in girls. From the point of view of learning and self-control, boys are simply more vulnerable. These apparently fragile boys had overcome their early difficulties through the support of parents and teachers who, after all, were attentive and observant enough to seek out a psychologist, presumably one of many steps they might have taken with that child's welfare in mind. Many of these initially fragile boys continued to have obsessive interests or an appetite for risk that set the stage for their careers. Meanwhile, many of the girls their age who were light years ahead of them in classroom learning, language, social skills, and self-control opted for paths that would not necessarily lead them to the highest status or most lucrative careers. They had other goals." End quote. A note left on the table, so we called our lawyer. "I'm angry, I hate you, I'm also not too satisfied with myself, I don't take things very well, I'm going to blow up the whole thing." Individual takes a bunch of pills and a message stated explicitly, verbally, individual says, "I hate you, you're an evil person, I wish you'd jump out of the window or kill yourself or shoot yourself or make yourself a sacrifice to the deity," and then goes and does it. Rebecca Walker, in putting down the gun, lapses furthermore. Begin quote. Tell him he will not be loved unless he abandons his own desires and picks up a tool of competition. Tell him that to be of value, he must stand ready to compete, dominate, and if necessary, kill, if not actually, then virtually, financially, athletically. If one's life purpose is obscured by the pressure to conform to a generic type and other traces of self are ostracized in the shadow, then just how difficult is it to pick up a gun, metaphoric or literal, as a means of self-definition, a way of securing what feels like personal power, end quote. Perhaps you can skate along the infinitely expanding perimeter of compulsion. Perhaps you can slam against the threshold of compression. Sensory perception, physical perception, psychosexual perception, perception not bound by organic limits. Self extends into the world beyond the body. Science and religion move to surpass organic limits from the body as the place of all power to the city as the transcendental, all-limited, supersensory realm. Brain returns to initial state, or in the words of Spinoza, for peace is not merely the absence of war, but is a virtue that springs from force of character. For obedience, besides that commonwealth, whose peace depends on the sluggishness of its subjects, of which may more properly be called the desert. Loosely paraphrased. Thank you.